It was a hot Monday morning, and 8-year-old Tobi was late for school. Again. He ran through the school gates, his bag swinging wildly behind him. As he reached his classroom door, he took a deep breath and sneaked inside, hoping his teacher, Mr. James, wouldn't see him. But of course Mr. James did. "Tobi, late again," Mr. James said with a sigh, arms crossed. The whole class laughed. Tobi's ears burned. He dropped his head and walked to his seat beside Ada, the quietest girl in class. "Why are you always late?" Ada whispered as she opened her math book. Tobi shrugged. "I dunno. I just like sleeping." They both giggled quietly. But by break time everything changed. Started with a sound. While everyone ran outside for break, Tobi stayed back to look for his pencil. He had dropped it under his desk. He got down on his knees and reached under. That's when he heard it. The sound came from below the classroom floor. Tobi froze. Was that knocking? He placed his ear to the floor. Nothing. But just as he was about to stand up, this time it was louder and slower. Tobi jumped back. His heart thudded like a drum. "Who's there?" he whispered. Classroom was empty. Sunlight poured in through the windows. The only sound was the wind shaking the trees outside. Tobi shook his head and laughed nervously. "Maybe I'm just hearing things." But then he saw it. Right under his desk, hidden by the edge of the carpet, was a tiny crack in the wooden floorboards. He leaned closer. It wasn't a crack. It was a line. Straight line. Like the edge of a door. Tobi gasped. There was a door under the classroom floor. He reached out and scratched the wood with his fingernail. The edge lifted a little, like a loose cover. Suddenly Ada walked in. "What are you doing on the floor?" she asked, tilting her head. Tobi nearly jumped out of his skin. "Nothing. I dropped my pencil." Ada frowned. "You look like you saw a ghost." Tobi sat up. He bit his lip. Should he tell her? Ada wasn't like the other kids. She didn't laugh at him when he messed up. Maybe she'd believe him. There's a door under the floor," he whispered. Ada blinked. "A door? Shoo!" Tobi waved his hands. He pointed under the desk. "Look, right there." Ada crouched down beside him. She ran her finger along the wooden floor. Her eyes grew wide. "It's really a door," she breathed. They stared at each other. Both of them jumped. Ada clutched Tobi's arm. "Did you hear that?" Tobi nodded slowly. His mouth felt dry. "Someone's down there." Ada's eyes darted toward the door. "We should tell Mr. James." But Tobi shook his head. "What if it's a bad guy? What if it's a secret?" Ada hesitated. "What if it's dangerous?" Tobi took a deep breath. His heart raced. His hands felt shaky. "I want to know what's down there." Ada stared at him. Then, to his surprise, she nodded. "Okay, but we go together." At that moment, neither of them knew. They had just started an adventure that would change their lives forever. After school, when the hallways were quiet and most of the students had gone home, Tobi and Ada sneaked back into the classroom. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows on the floor. Everything felt strange. Too quiet, too still. Tobi held a small metal ruler in his hand. "Are you sure this will work?" Ada whispered. "No," Tobi whispered back. "But it's all I've got." He slid the ruler into the tiny crack in the floorboard. Took a few tries, but then, click, the corner lifted. Slowly, he peeled back the wooden square like a lid. Dust flew into the air. Beneath it was a black hole. A dark square tunnel leading underground. Ada gasped. "It's real." The air from the hole smelled old and wet, like a forgotten basement. Tobi pulled out the flashlight he had taken from his dad's garage. "You brought that too?" Ada asked, surprised. "Of course. I'm not going down there blind." Tobi shined the light into the hole. Old wooden steps led down into the darkness. The tunnel looked narrow, as if it hadn't been used in years. Tobi looked at Ada. "You can stay here if you want." Ada's lips trembled, but she shook her head. We go together. Remember? Tobi smiled nervously. Right. They climbed into the hole one step at a time. The wood creaked under their feet. Ada held Tobi's shirt tightly, and Tobi held the flashlight with both hands, his knuckles white. Don't let it go off, Ada whispered. I won't, he promised. Down, down they went until finally the steps ended. They reached the bottom. The tunnel was made of stone walls and had spiderwebs everywhere. I feel like we're in a scary movie, Tobi muttered. Ada didn't say anything. Her eyes darted around nervously. They followed the tunnel. The air grew colder. Each step echoed like a loud drumbeat. Then Tobi's foot hit something. Clang! They both screamed. Tobi pointed the flashlight down. It was a rusty tin can. They laughed nervously, but then, voice, whispering, very faint. Who's there? Tobi froze. Ada grabbed his arm tighter. Did you hear that? She whispered. Tobi nodded slowly. He turned off the flashlight. Why did you do that? Ada panicked. Shoo, he whispered. Listen. Tunnel was dark now. Silent. They held their breath. A door far down the tunnel opened by itself. Light spilled out from it. Not bright light, but a dim orange glow like fire or candlelight. Tobi turned the flashlight back on and slowly walked forward. The closer they got, the louder their hearts pounded. They reached the door. It was old, made of heavy wood, and covered in dust and scratches. A sign above it read, "Keep out. For staff only." Ada gulped. This doesn't look like part of the school. Tobi didn't answer. He pushed the door gently. It opened with a low groan. Inside was a strange room. The walls were lined with shelves filled with old school books, broken chairs, and dusty trophies. But in the middle of the room was something very strange. A big cork board filled with photos. Photos of kids. Each picture had a name written in red ink. Tobi stepped closer and read some names. Emeka A. Expelled 2011. Ruth B. Disappeared 2015. Fola O. Last seen 2019. Ada gasped. Disappeared. They stared at one photo in particular. A boy with big eyes and short curly hair. His name was written beneath it. Fola Ojo. Tobi frowned. I know that name. I heard it before. Didn't someone say he vanished? Ada nodded slowly. I heard some teachers whispering about him once. They said he ran away. But, she pointed to the word disappeared. They never found him. Tobi looked around. Why would the school hide this? Just then, bang. The door slammed shut behind them. Ada screamed. The flashlight shook in Tobi's hand. They ran to the door, but it wouldn't open. Then something moved behind the shelf. Tobi pointed the flashlight. Who's there? He shouted. Silence. Then a low voice. You're not supposed to be here. Ada's hand went cold in Tobi's. The voice came again. Leave now before it's too late. The flashlight flickered. Then it died. Darkness swallowed them. And they weren't alone. Tobi gripped Ada's hand tightly in the darkness. His heart pounded so loud. He thought it would burst from his chest. Stay calm, he whispered. But how could they stay calm? The flashlight was dead. The door was locked. And someone or something was in the room with them. Ada squeezed his hand harder. I want to go home, she whispered, her voice shaking. Tobi swallowed hard. Who are you? He called into the dark. For a moment there was no answer. Then footsteps. Low. Moving closer. You shouldn't have come here, the voice said again. Sounded like a boy but older than them. The voice was scratchy, like someone who hadn't spoken in a long time. Tobi felt his knees tremble. We didn't mean to, he shouted. We just. The footsteps stopped. You want to know the truth, the voice said. Fine. I'll show you. Suddenly the room lit up, not with light from the flashlight, but with a soft blue glow. Tobi and Ada gasped. Standing in front of them was a boy. maybe 12 or 13 years old. His clothes were torn and dirty. His face was pale. His eyes, sad and tired. "I'm Fola," the boy said quietly. "And I've been trapped here for 6 years." Ada clapped her hands over her mouth. "You're Fola Ojo." The boy nodded slowly. "I ran away after something terrible happened. But the school wouldn't let me leave." Tobi blinked. "What do you mean?" "The school trapped you." Fola walked over to the photo board. He pointed at his picture, the same one they had just seen. "I found out a secret," he said softly. "A secret they didn't want anyone to know." "What secret?" Tobi asked, his voice a whisper. Fola turned to them. "There's a hidden group in this school. Teachers, staff, people in charge. They take children who break the rules or ask too many questions, and they make them disappear." Ada shook her head, tears filling her eyes. "That's not true. That can't be true." Fola nodded. "It's real. They caught me when I tried to tell the headmaster. They said I was a troublemaker, and locked me down here." Tobi's stomach turned. "For 6 years. I don't know how long anymore," Fola whispered. "Time feels strange down here. I tried to escape. Every time I got close, they dragged me back." Ada stepped forward. "But why show yourself to us now?" Fola's eyes softened. "Because you're the first ones brave enough to come down here. The first ones to listen." Just then, bang. The walls shook. Fola's eyes widened with fear. "They're coming," he hissed. "They know you're here." "Who's coming?" Tobi yelled. Fola grabbed their hands. "You have to leave. Now." "But the door." Fola waved his hand toward the wall. A new door appeared. A glowing blue one. "Go through there. It will take you back upstairs." Ada hesitated. "What about you?" Fola shook his head, his eyes sad. "I can't leave. Not yet." Tobi wanted to argue, but suddenly, footsteps pounded in the tunnel outside. A voice shouted, "Find them." Fola pushed them toward the glowing door. "Go!" Tobi and Ada ran. They burst through the strange door, and felt the cold air of the classroom hit their faces. They were back in the classroom. The hole in the floor was gone. They turned around. Fola wasn't there. Ada gasped for air. What just happened?" Tobi stared at the floor. "We have to help him. We can't leave him down there." Ada nodded, wiping her tears. "But how?" Before Tobi could answer, a hand grabbed his shoulder. He spun around. Mr. James stood there. His face cold, his eyes dark. "You two have been busy," Mr. James said quietly. Tobi's heart stopped. Mr. James smiled, a slow, scary smile. "Looks like you've learned too much." Mr. James's hand squeezed Tobi's shoulder tightly. Ada froze beside him, her eyes wide with fear. Tobi felt his throat go dry. "And Mr. James, we were just exploring." Mr. James interrupted, his voice low and cold. "Breaking into places you don't belong." Ada grabbed Tobi's hand. "We didn't mean to." Mr. James leaned in close, his smile thin as a knife. "You know, most students follow the rules. But you too." He shook his head slowly. "You're just like Fola." At the sound of Fola's name, Tobi's heart sank. "What do you mean?" Tobi asked, his voice shaking. Mr. James gave a soft chuckle. "I mean, curious. Always poking your noses where they shouldn't be." He pulled a small black whistle from his pocket. "And curiosity gets you sent away." He blew the whistle. There was no sound, but footsteps echoed in the hallway. Heavy, fast. Ada's grip on Tobi's hand tightened. "They're coming," she whispered. Mr. James stepped back toward the door. "You had a choice," he said softly. "You could have stayed quiet. But now it's too late." He walked out, closing the door behind him. Click. The sound of a lock. They were trapped. Tobi ran to the door and pulled. It wouldn't budge. "We're locked in," he shouted. Ada looked around wildly. "There has to be a way out." Tobi kicked the door hard, but it didn't move. His heart raced. He turned to Ada. We have to find Fola. He's the only one who knows how to escape. Ada nodded. But how do we get back down there? Tobi thought fast. The floor. It opened before. They rushed to the spot where the secret door had been. They knelt down, searching for the crack. Nothing. The floor was smooth, like nothing had ever been there. Tobi hit the floor in frustration. Come on. Open. Ada put her hand on his. Tobi. Remember what Fola did. The glowing door. Maybe we have to believe it's there. Tobi blinked. Believe. Ada nodded. He used his hand, and it just appeared. What if we try? Tobi hesitated. Sounded crazy, but nothing about this day made sense. He placed his hand flat on the floor. I believe there's a door here, he whispered. Nothing. Ada placed her hand beside his. We believe, she said softly. For a moment, silence. Then, a soft blue glow spread under their hands. The secret door reappeared. They gasped. Tobi didn't waste a second. He pulled it open and the hole was there again, dark and deep. Ada grabbed the flashlight. Let's go. They climbed down the steps, hearts thudding in their ears. The tunnel was darker than before. The air colder. But this time they weren't afraid. They had to save Fola. They followed the path until they reached the old room again. Fola was there, kneeling on the floor, his hands chained to the wall. His head hung low. Fola! Tobi ran to him. Fola looked up weakly. His face was pale. You came back. Ada knelt beside him. We're here to help you. Fola shook his head slowly. It's too late. They'll be here any second. No, Tobi shouted. We won't leave you. He grabbed the chains, pulling with all his strength. But they didn't move. Ada searched the room and spotted a rusty key on the floor. Here, she shouted. He tossed it to Tobi. Tobi jammed the key into the lock. Turned, click, and the chains fell away. Fola gasped for air. You freed me. They helped him stand. We have to go now, Ada urged. They turned toward the tunnel. But standing at the entrance were 3 tall shadows. Mr. James, and 2 other men in dark uniforms. Mr. James shook his head slowly. I warned you. Fola stepped in front of Tobi and Ada. Not this time. He raised his hand, and for the first time his body glowed bright blue. The shadows stepped back. What are you doing? Mr. James shouted. Fola's eyes flashed. I'm setting us free. The walls trembled. The chains on the walls snapped. The shelves crashed to the ground. Fola turned to Tobi and Ada. Run. I'll hold them off. No, Tobi shouted. But Fola gave a sad smile. Thank you for believing in me. With a blast of blue light, the tunnel exploded in a flash. Tobi grabbed Ada's hand, and they ran. Tobi and Ada ran through the shaking tunnel, the walls crumbling around them. The ground shook beneath their feet like a small earthquake. Behind them, they heard Mr. James shouting and the strange humming sound of Fola's glowing power. Faster! Tobi yelled. Ada nodded, her eyes wide with fear. They didn't stop running, not even when sharp stones fell from the ceiling. As they reached the steps leading back up, a loud crack echoed through the tunnel. Tobi turned for just a second, and saw a burst of blue light swallow the tunnel behind them. Fola stood there, holding off Mr. James and the dark uniformed men with all his strength. Go! Fola shouted. Tobi hesitated. He wanted to run back to help, but Ada pulled him up the stairs. If we don't go now, we'll all be trapped, she cried. They climbed up as fast as they could, their hearts thudding louder than the collapsing tunnel. Finally, they reached the classroom. The floorboard slammed shut behind them on its own. The room shook one last time, then fell silent. Ada collapsed on the floor, breathing hard. Tobi stood there, staring at the spot where the secret door had been. Again. Ada wiped her tears. Do you think he's okay? Tobi nodded slowly, even though his chest felt heavy. I think he saved us. Just then they heard footsteps. The classroom door burst open, and in walked the headmaster. Behind him were teachers, students, and even the school security guard. Tobi and Ada froze. The headmaster looked around, his eyes narrowing. What is going on here? Before Tobi could speak, the floor where the door had been gave a soft thud. And then, a figure climbed out. It was Fola, but he didn't look weak or pale anymore. He stood tall, his eyes bright, his clothes clean. His chains were gone. Everyone gasped. One teacher whispered, "Isn't that the boy who disappeared?" The headmaster's mouth fell open. "Fola." Fola nodded calmly. "I'm back." Mr. James was nowhere to be seen. Fola walked over to Tobi and Ada. "Thank you, both of you. You believed in me when no one else did." Tobi felt a lump in his throat. "We couldn't leave you down there." Fola smiled. "And now it's over. They're gone. The ones who trapped me." Ada blinked. "Where did they go?" Fola shook his head softly. "Far away. Where they can't hurt anyone ever again." The headmaster stepped forward, his face pale. "Fola, sorry. We never knew this was happening. We thought you ran away." Fola gave a small smile. "You didn't want to know." The headmaster lowered his head. "You're right." The entire class stared, not knowing what to say. Finally, Fola turned to Tobi and Ada. "I can't stay." Tobi frowned. "What? Why?" Fola's eyes softened. "I'm not like other kids anymore. I don't belong here now." Ada shook her head, tears welling up. "But you're free. You can live." Fola smiled gently. "I'll live, but somewhere far away, where I can help others like me." He placed his hand on Tobi's shoulder. "You were brave. You believed when no one else did. Never lose that." Tobi blinked back his tears. "I won't." Fola nodded. "Goodbye, friends." And with a soft blue glow, Fola turned and walked out the door. The sun shone bright outside, lighting his path as he disappeared into the world. 1 week later, things at school changed. Mr. James never came back. The strange group he belonged to vanished like they were never there. The headmaster opened an investigation. The secret tunnel was sealed forever. And as for Tobi and Ada, they were never the same. They weren't just students anymore. They were heroes. But they never told anyone the full story. Some things were too powerful to explain. Every now and then, when Tobi sat by the window, he thought of Fola. And sometimes when the sun hit just right, he swore he could see a soft blue glow in the distance. A reminder that they had saved a friend. And that even the darkest secrets can be brought into the light. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more interesting stories.